Hello everybody, Sean here. Welcome back to my photography Photoshop channel. This is a special episode. Just like I did with Lightroom 5 with the my favorite features, I'm going to do the same thing with Photoshop CC. This has been requested by my subscribers, by my photography tips and tricks followers. And they says, when you haven't really talked about CC or did any tutorials yet with CC. Well, there's a couple things on that. I recently just got CC with my Creative Cloud. So from now on, all my regular Photoshop tips and tricks episodes will be done with CC. But this is going to kick off the new version. My features, not all the features, but the features that I'll be using most that stood out to me from reviewing and analyzing the program and messing with it for the past few days. And this is the features that I've come up with that I would like to share with you. So, the first thing is that let's just start off, and you'll notice within all my favorite features of Photoshop CC, they did a lot with Camera Raw. A lot of the features are based around Camera Raw, and that's a good thing because I've been doing a lot of Raw. Of course, as you can see, you can open up JPEGs within Camera Raw also and use the editor. It's not subjected just to RAW files, but I have been doing a lot of RAW, and I do a lot in the Camera Raw. So these new features are fantastic. And I think photographers are really going to be able to utilize them and really take advantage of them. Not all these features today will be from Camera Raw, but a bulk of them will be, as you'll see. But the new Camera Raw is a very big part of Photoshop CC, as you'll see today. So the first thing is, as you can see, is we open up this image and we are in Camera Raw. Now, here's my favorite feature right off the bat of Photoshop CC. It may seem like a minor thing, but to me, it's a huge time saver. It's Camera Raw as a filter. So what you would do is you would do your edits in Camera Raw. Okay, so say you would do your exposure, whatever. You would do your blacks, your whites, your vibrancy, whatever you want to do. And then you would open that photo into Photoshop. Now what happens if whatever happened when you wanted to go back to Camera Raw? I know it happens to me all the time in CS6 and earlier. You got to reopen the image, you got to do this, do that. I mean, you could do it, but it's a workaround. It's a hassle. Watch this. Now, with Camera Raw as a filter, all you got to do is go to your filter, Camera Raw filter. Look at that. Watch. Boom. Right back into Camera Raw, and you can keep doing this. So I could do another edit. I want to bring up my exposure a little bit, whatever. Open it up, boom, done. I want to go back into Camera Raw. Same thing. Camera Raw filter. It's simultaneously easy to switch to now, back and forth fluidly. There's no workaround. And Camera Raw is at your fingertips now, and I'm so glad because they made Camera Raw so powerful in CC. So if you forgot something to do and you want to go back and make tweaks, Camera Raw as a filter. Okay? One of my favorite features of Photoshop CC. So let's go back to this same image here. My second favorite feature is shake reduction. Now, this is a sharpening filter, but what it's doing is it's actually detecting camera shake. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean your subject is moving. It's you're moving. Whether you got shaky hands, you were shooting without a tripod, you were shooting at low shutter speeds, or, it happens to us all the time. We get back, we check our pictures out in the viewfinder, the LCD, it looks good. We get home, it's not going to work on a totally, completely blurred image, but something that's slightly off, maybe you had a little shake right there before you hit the shutter button. It happens to us all. And, it's not really that bad of a problem. This will fix it. I've been messing with it. Some results are better than others, but for the most part, it does do what it says. And there's a little bit of camera shake here on this Cudamundi at a zoo at the fair that my fiance took. And she gave me the picture, and she said, I came a little blurry. I might have, had shaky hands. It happens to us all. So what we do is we can go to filter, we go to sharpen, and then we can go to shake reduction. Also, what I like about this is that you could actually select the part of the image that you want to focus on. And you could change it. You could change the size. You could change the placement. And it re-renders what's called a render preview. And then you have your sliders here. So you have your blue trace bounds. Okay? That's basically your amount of sharpening. Okay? Your smoothing. And now this is very nice here. This is your artifact suppression. Okay? So any funky stuff or large artifacts that you get from over sharpening or too much sharpening, you could definitely do that. We're going to pull back here. Now, I'm going to do a lot of over sharpening. I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going to tell you why. And I say this all the time with my Photoshop tips. I'm doing it because of YouTube. By the time I downgrade the video, upload it, you guys are viewing it. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, so I'm going to over exaggerate. But normally I wouldn't do these things this much, but I'm doing it purposely for this channel. So, you have a preview here. You have your detail preview here. You have all these sliders here. It's really a matter of messing with them, how much you want to do. But when you come to the conclusion, see it's rendering fine preview. When you come to the conclusion that that's what you want, you can see before and after. Now watch this. Like I said, it's hard to see on YouTube, so I'm trying to really bump up the amount. That's before. That's after. Before and after. And what's interesting is it almost looks like it's lining it up more than it is sharpening. And that's exactly what shake reduction is for. So we hit OK. Just imagine the possibilities of this and how useful this could be. And there we go. And it sharpened it up a bit. Actually sharpened it up quite a bit. Can come in very handy. Okay? So that is shake reduction. So try that out. Try it out on, I'm sure you got tons of images that could use some shake reduction. We all do. It's a common problem. It happens a lot. Especially if we're out in the field and we're in a rush taking something. And then the second, my third favorite is Smart Sharpen. What is Smart Sharpen? How is that different than the other sharpens? How is that different than shake reduction? So what I did was I wanted to get something with a lot of texture. So I got this sign that I took up in the Delaware River at a campground that we stayed at. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Filter, we're going to go to Sharpen, and there it is, Smart Sharpen. Well, Smart Sharpen is really, really good, and I'm going to tell you why. How is it different than Unsharp Mask or any other sharpening? One of the features, one of the main reasons that I found by doing this is that it has very little artifacting, little to none, depending on the image, which means you're not going to get a lot of noise, you're not going to get a lot of funky stuff that like you saw with shake reduction and other previous sharpens. There are ways to fix it. And one of them is reduce noise. Okay? And what this is doing is this is working off of luminance on Camera Raw. What does that mean? Well, let me show you. So we did this picture before with the shake reduction, but now what I could do is I could open this up into Camera Raw Filter, and right here we have noise reduction luminance. So that can get rid of a lot of extra artifacts that implemented when we did shake reduction. Well, same thing, working on that luminance slider is baked right into Smart Sharpen. So we're going to go back. And there we go, see? So we have our amount here. We have the radius. Of course this is way, way, way too much, but we have the radius here. We have the amount. And we have reduced noise. So a lot of those, as you can see in the preview here, a lot of that extra stuff that you see from adding too much sharpening. See, we overdid it here, but I'm just showing you how the radius works. We're going to bring that back down. But the more you sharpen, naturally, the more artifacts you're going to get. It's a natural part of Photoshop. Now with reduced noise, you can actually bump up the sharpening more than normal, and you could just bump up the reduced noise and get rid of a lot of that extra artifacting. Again, it's hard to see here on YouTube, but you guys try it out on your own. This is for you guys to try out on your computer, and you'll be able to see the results a lot better than on YouTube. But I'm going to hit OK, and it's doing the Smart Sharpen. There you go. Okay? We could have backed, like, again, normally I wouldn't sharpen it this much, but I'm doing it for YouTube. But it's a very good way to sharpen. And even though I maxed out the sharpening and I over sharpened it for this video, you know, it still looks good as far as the noise and artifacting. So that's Smart Sharpen. So especially on textures like this, just imagine on cars, on chrome, rust, Smart Sharpen is going to be a really, really great feature without getting all that extra funky stuff in the picture that you bring in with sharpening, especially on certain textures. Okay. My next favorite feature here of Photoshop CC, again, is in Camera Raw. So we're going to use this as a filter to go back into Camera Raw. And those of you that, and I've talked about this in Lightroom 5, but those of you that do a lot of editing would mostly do a lot of your heavy-duty editing in Photoshop. For example, Camera Raw in older versions of Lightroom worked on a circular healing brush, spot healing, which is good for cleaning up spots. So I'll give you an example. Go to spot removal. Of course, I could change my bracket keys here, and you could do basic spotting. Now, see what you can do? It automatically detects an area. Of course, now you could change that area where it's selecting from. Okay, but it's great for doing freckles, whatever you got. Retouching an image. Okay, that's fine. We've always had that, right? Okay, I don't really see anything else in this picture, but just to give you an example. So that's the regular spot, how we used to do it in the past. That's good, but what about something that's not circular? What if we have to actually grab? Well, for a great example, I use this picture because of the hair. Okay, got some extra hair here that we'd like to clean up. Well, what would happen in the past is I mean, you would go into Photoshop, but say if you didn't go into Photoshop and you wanted to do it all in here, which in the past I don't know why you would have to do circle, 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 circle. Now watch, if you just grab the spot healing brush in Camera Raw and hold the mouse button down, look, you could do one complete selection and then watch, just like spot healing, it grabs it from another area. If you don't like this area, you can move it. You could change the size. Okay, watch this. Just like the old spot healing, but now you're not just subjected to just circles. You can actually do shapes, and great for selecting hair or anything that's non-circular. So there we go. Quick tip for you. Check this out. I also mentioned this in Lightroom 5, but now we have visualized spots. Look at this. Now let me zoom out here and explain what this is. Sometimes there's spots on an image that are very hard to see, and then when you go to print it or make large prints, you say, wait a minute, how the heck did I miss that? I didn't see that when I was editing my image, and I made sure that I went through the entire image. Visualize spots really helps with that. You have to be on the spot healing brush, but then you have a check mark down here called Visualize Spots. And what it does is it makes it almost like a negative, like a trace kind of. And you could do this, and then I went through this picture already, but you would be able to see, like even here, stuff that would draw attention from the eye. And this will be able to spot sensor dust, anything really. Excellent for sensor dust. So this is stuff that you normally wouldn't see, and this filter will actually bring it out. And then when you do all your editing, you hit OK, and you're good to go. The image is fixed. And especially if you're doing large prints, this is really important because you could definitely miss stuff with the naked eye, and visualize spots will definitely help you find it. So again, another great Camera Raw feature inside of Photoshop CC. Here's something really cool. Again, we're going to go back into Camera Raw. This is the new Radial Filter. Let's talk about that. Like I said, we're doing a lot in Camera Raw. So the Radial Filter is pretty cool. Very important. Don't think of just as vignettes. This is a pretty powerful filter here. as you can see, now we have more control. So what we could do is when we go to Radial Filter, we could select our circle here, or ellipse. Now you almost could think of it as like a spotlight. Okay, you have more control. You have your exposure here. Look at this. But you also have the option to have it outside of the circle or inside the circle. So we're going to do inside. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the exposure up. So you could have multiple filters, radial filters, because you're just going to use it as a new filter. You just keep hitting new. So you could have, let's just say in this case, multiple spotlights. So say I want to spotlight this. Okay, do our adjustments here, and I can keep going back. Okay, we're going to do a new one. Same thing, but we're going to say we're going to highlight this area. We're going to move it here, down here, by these barrels and crates. Again, so I'm kind of making like individual spotlights. This is great for lighting an image. And then what you could do is you could do one last one, but watch this. You could do it, say, for the whole image. Of course, this is just an example. You would use this however you want. But watch this. Then we would go outside. And then you can make kind of like a vignette. Watch this. Look at that. We're still highlighting and spotlighting the areas that you wanted to. So you hit OK. Look at that. So now you can actually use that as like a spotlight. You could highlight overexposed and underexposed certain areas of an image to give it that spotlight effect. Very, very powerful. I like that filter, radial filter. It's pretty useful. I can imagine tons of things to do with it. This is just one example, but this is a great idea of how you could use it. It kind of gives it life, kind of gives it like a dramatic lighting effect, like you were there lighting this scene when all you're doing is using radial filters. So, very cool. Try that out. Try outside, try inside, try different exposures. You don't just have to do exposure. You can do a lot of different things. But phenomenal for vignettes and spotlighting. So, definitely want to check that out. Okay, now we have two images left here. I'm actually not going to use it on this image. I'm going to use it on this image here. But we have now what's called the upright. And again, this is within Camera Raw. So, another common problem with architecture and buildings is buildings that seem like they're leaning, which is pretty common. So this fixes it without distorting it. So you have the way it was before, but now you had like barrel distortion and correction, but now you have upright, which has a lot of presets. For example, we have auto. That's interesting. Okay, we have one level here of correction, which is horizontal. We have vertical. And we have pretty much full overall, which doesn't always work, has a lot of funky effects. You can tweak all these. You do have sliders. I'm just going to say, because I tried it with quite a few images, like you said, I saw that other building up there that I was going to use. But I found out that the demonstration works best with this picture. But if it's going to depend on the picture, it's going to depend on the building. So for this example, if you notice, this is before, and I'm going to use auto. This is after. Look at that. Before, after. Of course, you have your tweaks, and you can go in here and you can mess around with things, and you'll have to do some cropping, and you'll have to do some, more editing, but at least it's more flexibility. But I mean, look at the results that you get automatically. So not bad at all. So that is upright, and that is within Camera Raw. There's still quite a lot of features of Photoshop CC that I like, but these are just the ones that really stood out to me that I wanted to cover on here. Again, it's just a matter of messing with. It's a matter of practicing these tips. Going through Photoshop CC yourself. Get a list from Adobe.com. Get a list of all the new features. Go through them yourself. Find out which ones stand out for you. You may like other ones more than others. You may like only some of these and other ones that I didn't cover. But these are the ones that I've been using, and these are the ones that I find to be most productive in my workflow. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you again soon on the next Photoshop tutorial. Take care.